Good morning students, I welcome you to this class, to the students of standard 8. Once again back with our class. Today we are going to study our history chapter number 4, tribal and the vision of the golden age. This is the chapter number 4, and in this chapter mainly we are going to study about the tribal communities living in India. We know that we have a number of tribal groups living in different parts of India, and some tribal groups are found in the central India, some are found in the South India, some are found in the northeastern parts of India. So we are going to discuss about this all tribal communities living in India, and mainly we are going to discuss how they were affected because of the colonial rules. So let us begin this class with the tribal communities. Students, first of all, I would like to tell you that in India we have two types of communities. Two types of communities or societies live in India, and they are caste-based communities and the tribal communities. Let me tell you the difference between these caste-based communities and the tribal communities. The main difference between these two communities are caste-based communities are mainly divided on the basis of the caste. So that is the difference between these two communities. The caste-based communities have the caste system, and society is divided on the basis of four castes: the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and the Sudras. Whereas in tribal communities there is no such caste system. So this is the main difference between these two communities living in India. The caste-based communities are divided on the basis of the caste, whereas in the tribal communities there is no such caste system. Now, we are coming mainly to these tribal communities. What is a tribe? Whom do we call a tribal people? So, a tribe is a group of people who are connected by a number of common factors such as language, culture, custom, and traditions. So, this is the definition of a tribe. A tribe is a group of people who are connected by a common factor, by some common factors. Group of people live together in a particular area, and they are connected by a number of common factors such as language, culture, custom, tradition, beliefs, etc. So these are the common factors by which these tribes are connected. They have their language difference. Their language is different from the language of the mainstream society. Now let me tell you, caste-based societies are called the mainstream society, and they are civilized societies because they live a settled lives and they are developed in all the ways. They are educated, so we can say they are the mainstream society, whereas the tribal societies are away from this mainstream society. These tribal people mainly live in the remote areas, in the jungles, and in the hilly areas. So therefore they are always away from this the mainstream communities or mainstream societies. They have always tried to maintain a separation from these mainstream societies, and even they do not like any interference in their tribal communities. They do not want outsiders to do any type of interference in their activities, and they do not like outsiders to enter into their tribal communities. So that is their specialty. They have their special language, they have their different customs, their different culture, their belief is different. So these are the different things which makes this tribal communities different from the caste-based communities. So once again I want to repeat the definition of a tribe. A tribe is a group of people who are connected by some common factors such as language, culture, tradition, beliefs, and etc. There are number of tribal communities live in India, and some of them are Kurumbas, the Panga. They live in the southern part of India, the whereas the Santals and Bhils and Gons, they live in the central India, central parts of India, in Jharkhand, Bihar, and Madhya Pradesh. And the Nagas, Kasis, Garos, they live in the northeastern parts of India. So these are the different tribal communities live in India. Coming to their occupation, their main occupation is hunting and gathering. They believe in hunting and gathering from the forest area. So these tribal communities mainly they hunt and they gather the forest products, and they also some of them practice the shifting cultivation. Now let me tell you about the shifting cultivation. Because they live in the forest areas or in the hilly areas, so these tribals, those who live mainly in the northeastern parts of India, in the hilly areas, they practice shifting cultivation. Now in shifting cultivation what they do, because most of these tribals are nomadic people, they move from place to place, so they never live a settled life. They follow this nomadic life of system because of the few reasons. Because some of they rear animals, some of them this some of these tribal groups they rear animals like camels, goats and sheep, and therefore they take these animals for pasturing from different place to place. So as a result they have to follow the nomadic life of nomadic system of life. And as they move from place to place, they also grow some crops in some fields. So for growing crops, these people they cut the trees, they clean the areas, they burn the bushes and clean a patch of land, and they do the cultivation. So such kind of cultivation, shifting the places, changing the places and doing the cultivation, growing crops, that is called shifting cultivation. This shifting cultivation is named by different names, called by different names such as slash and burn cultivation, jhum cultivation in northeastern parts of India. So their main occupation is hunting and gathering from the forest. Their livelihood is mainly dependent on the forest products. Second, some of them, as I have told, that they practice the shifting cultivation or jhum cultivation or slash or burn cultivation, and then some of the tribal groups they also they rear animals such as camels, goats, and sheep. So these are their different main occupations. Now we are finally coming to the effect of the colonial rule on the tribal communities, how these tribal communities were affected by the different policies of the colonial government. First of all, we see the British policies curtailed their freedoms. I have already told you this. These tribal communities they like to live in the remote areas, and they they have many freedoms in the forest areas. For example, they could collect the forest produce and they could hunt and gather. They practice shifting cultivation because these forest area they were their places where they lived and did all kind of activities, and there was no restriction. But because of the colonial rule, the British government they started interfering into the matters of the British, and therefore many of their freedoms were curtailed. And then second, we see that they were deprived of their rights to natural resources. As I told you that many of them freedoms which were enjoyed by these tribal peoples because of the British policies, because of the British rules, those freedoms were taken away from them. And then we see that they were deprived. Now they were deprived of their right to natural resources. As I told you that these tribal people they mainly dependent on the forest for their livelihood. They used to collect the different forest produce like timbers and honeys and different things and sell it for their livelihood. So because of these British policies, they were deprived of this right to natural resources. And then next, tribal chiefs lost their power. Tribal people had a chief among their tribes, and this was the headman of this tribe who used to control, practice all the administrative powers. He used to make laws for the tribal peoples. He used to make give the justice, and he used to take care of the activities of the tribal people. So because of this British rule, British people wanted to control these tribal people also, and so that they can collect the revenue from them and control them. As a result, these tribal chiefs, they lost their powers. Now the British authorities even started controlling these tribal chiefs, and then they were disposed of their lands. Many of the tribal people, they were thrown away from their lands. Their lands were taken. Okay, they were stopped from following their nomadic system of life, because the British people wanted to collect the revenue, and therefore they wanted all these tribal people who move from place to place to settle in one place, so that it will make easy for the British government to keep a record of all the people of the tribal people, and it was also beneficial for these British people to collect the revenue from these people. So they wanted these tribal people, especially the nomadic tribes, to settle in one place. And then uh, many of their lands were taken. As I told you that their lands were taken when the British government made different forest acts. According to these forest acts, the shifting cultivation was stopped, cutting of the trees was banned, and hunting was banned. And because of these different policies, the tribal people, they lost their lands. Okay, and because of the high revenue, even these British people, they imposed a high revenue on the tribal people also. So this, when because of this high revenue, tribal people, they could not pay the revenue to the British people. They used to take the loans from the money lender. As a result, many times they lost their lands, and they became landless laborer or bonded laborers. They started working in the others field as a labor. So that was the end of their freedoms, and most of the tribal peoples, they were exposed to the mainstream societies, and their lifestyle was changed. So that's all for today's class. In the previous in the next class, I would like to explain about these all things, how they were affected, and how these tribal people rebel against the British government. So that's all for today. Thank you very much.